Welcome to a quiet journey into the forgotten corners of the past, where the line between myth and history blurs into a soothing, dreamlike haze. Tonight, this longish broadcast invites you to dim the lights, perhaps settle with a warm cup of something comforting, and let go of the day's hurried pace. Our focus will be the pre-modern world, spanning the globe from ancient cities swallowed by sand to empires lost beneath the waves. We won't just tell stories. We will explore the archaeological whispers and historical anomalies that suggest our ancestors' grandest myths may hold a kernel of verifiable truth. Over the course of this tale, we will travel deep into the gentle mystery of legends, the enduring tale of Atlantis, the actual history behind the Amazonian warriors, the location of forgotten golden cities, and the surprisingly factual basis for sea monsters and mythological beasts. Our pace will be slow and rhythmic. Bear with me as I tend to meander a bit, but hey, stories are more fun that way. So yeah, we will tend to transition seamlessly between cultural folklore and documented evidence. You could just continue to be a listener. However, imagine what rewards we may reap if you are a fellow traveler, feeling the ancient sun on your skin and hearing the soft echo of history in the quiet spaces between the words. It is a journey for the mind and a gentle guide toward peaceful rest. Settle in now. Draw a deep, slow breath, and let the busy echoes of your day begin to fade away. The lights are low. Perhaps a gentle warmth is in your hands from a cup of tea. You are safe here, nestled in the quiet space where history and dream intertwine. Tonight, we begin our exploration into the myths that might, just possibly, contain a hidden core of truth. This evening, we turn our gaze toward the great, silent expanse of the ocean, the source of so many of humanity's oldest, most resilient tales. We journey back, not just years, but through the deep, swirling mists of memory, to a time when the horizon was not a line on a map, but a boundary to the unknown and the truly marvelous. We are looking for Atlantis, not the glittering, philosophical construct of Plato, but the quiet, earthly echo of a sudden, shattering catastrophe that might have inspired the entire legend. Imagine yourself standing, not on a bustling modern shore, but on the sun-drenched, volcanic edge of the Aegean Sea, nearly 4,000 years ago. The air here is thick and sweet with the smell of wild thyme and salty spray. It's a gentle, slow morning. The sky is a vast, cloudless blue, and below it, the water of the harbor is an improbable, deep sapphire. This island, Thera, what we now call Santorini, is not yet a sunken crescent of dramatic cliffs. It is a bustling, vibrant, flourishing Minoan port city. You can hear the rhythmic, lazy clang of a distant coppersmith and the low, musical chatter of sailors mending their sails. The homes are built from local stone and volcanic ash, painted in warm ochre, soft yellows, and deep, resonant blues. They are not just simple huts. They are multi-story structures, adorned with beautiful frescoes depicting playful dolphins, graceful lilies, and elegant figures. Look closely at the ground beneath your feet. The paved pathways are clean. The city is organized, sophisticated. This is Akrotiri, a Minoan outpost that stands as a testament to an age of unparalleled peace and prosperity in the ancient world. You see a fisherman mending his nets, his skin tanned dark by the powerful Hellenic sun. He nods a slow greeting. Everything is routine. Everything is safe. The Minoans were masters of the sea. Their ships, sleek, fast, and agile, ruled the waves of the Mediterranean. They traded saffron, olive oil, and finely wrought pottery with Egypt, Syria, and the distant shores of what would become Italy. Their civilization was unique, renowned not for its armies, but for its art, its architecture, and its sheer joy of life. There are few images of warrior kings or massive fortifications here. The spirit of the place is one of gentle, artistic commerce, a world living in a beautiful, fragile golden hour. But underneath this idyllic surface, the earth is restless. You feel it now, a barely perceptible deep, distant rumble, like a large piece of furniture being slowly dragged across a stone floor miles away. It's a sound that the locals have learned to ignore, just another idiosyncrasy of living atop a great, sleeping giant. The entire island of Thera is, in fact, the rim of an enormous volcano, one of the largest and most volatile in the world. The atmosphere begins to shift subtly. The sky, though still blue, holds a strange, dusty haze on the horizon. The air is still, too still. The rhythmic sound of the waves lapping against the stone docks seems muffled. The fisherman pauses in his work. He looks out toward the center of the caldera, a low, wide island that contains the volcano's vent. He doesn't look alarmed, not yet, but perhaps a tiny flicker of ancestral fear crosses his weathered face. This gentle prosperity, this entire sophisticated world built on trade and beauty, it is about to be wiped away in a single, terrifying geological instant. Around 1600 BCE, the exact date is still debated, lost in the shifting sands of time. The Earth finally decided to awaken, not with a simple tremor, but with a cataclysmic fury that dwarfed any human-recorded eruption until the modern era. This event is known to history as the Minoan Eruption or the Thera Eruption, and it is the closest, most powerful candidate for the genuine historical inspiration behind the myth of Atlantis. Imagine the scene now, not from the shore, but from a small trading vessel sailing past the island. The ship's deck, usually loud with the creak of wood and the snap of sails, is suddenly silent. A pillar of ash and pumice, miles wide, begins to ascend from the volcano, not slowly, but with the speed and power of a mythological beast breaking the surface of the sea. Hundreds of millions of cubic meters of material are hurled into the stratosphere, a dark, suffocating plume that reaches almost 25 miles high, blotting out the sun across the entire Aegean. The sound of this initial blast, you cannot even comprehend it. It would have been heard thousands of miles away. A shriek of the earth that vibrates not just through the air, but through the very bone of every living creature within hundreds of miles. For days, the sky would have rained down tephra, light, porous pumice stone, covering the entire island and choking the surrounding sea lanes. The beautiful, colorful city of Akrotiri was not burned. It was simply buried, instantly, gently, preserved almost perfectly, like a time capsule sealed by nature. But the true devastation came after the ash. The volcano, having emptied its massive subterranean magma chamber, could no longer support its own weight. The enormous cone, the center of the island, collapsed inward, an implosion that created the vast, deep caldera we see today. And when that cone collapsed, the sea, the very element that sustained the Minoan world, rushed in to fill the enormous, gaping wound. This sudden, massive displacement of water triggered something truly terrifying. The subsequent tsunami, not a single wave, but a series of mountainous surges, traveling across the Aegean Sea at hundreds of miles per hour. Imagine a wall of water, perhaps 50, 60, even 100 feet high, slamming into the northern coast of Crete, the very heartland of the Minoan civilization, 100 miles away. You're standing now on the coast of Crete, watching this nightmare unfold. The ocean recedes first, impossibly far, exposing dark, slimy stretches of seabed that have not seen the sun in millennia. This is the unsettling, eerie silence before the storm, a deep, sickening dread that grips the gut. Then you hear it, not the crash of waves, but a low, grinding roar. The sea returns, not as waves, but as a moving, relentless vertical wall of churning water, carrying with it pulverized stone, uprooted trees, and the shattered remnants of ships. The elegant, unfortified coastal palaces and towns of Crete, the symbols of Minoan power, were simply smashed and scoured clean. The entire infrastructure of their civilization, their fleet, their ports, their coastal agriculture, all were eradicated in moments. The civilization didn't disappear instantly. The Minoans lingered for decades, but their spirit was broken. Their economic power was destroyed. They were left vulnerable to the rising power on the Greek mainland, the Mycenaeans. So, let us look at the myth of Atlantis now. Plato describes a technologically advanced, ethically pure island civilization that was swallowed by the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. He mentions its sudden disappearance and its subsequent warning to future generations about the perils of excessive hubris and wealth. Do you see the echo now? The rich, powerful, and artistic Minoan culture of Thera and Crete suddenly, catastrophically destroyed by the sea. The island itself visibly collapsed and sank, not just a gentle erosion, but a geological vanishing act. For ancient Greeks traveling the Aegean in the centuries that followed, the sight of the collapsed caldera of Santorini, a giant, broken hole in the sea, must have inspired awe and terror. What better, more visceral, more potent true story could feed the myth of a sunken continent? The memory, passed down through generations of sailors and poets, was compressed, refined, and eventually exaggerated into the legendary Atlantis. We can almost feel the fine dust of the pumice on our cheeks, smell the cold salt of the tsunami wave as it recedes. The true history is perhaps even more compelling than the myth. It is the story of a golden age, built on peace and art, that failed to account for the simple, terrifying power of the planet itself. They built their paradise on the brim of a fiery mouth, and the earth yawned. Now let us turn our attention away from the sea's destructive power and toward another set of myths often dismissed as simple fantasy. The tales of the Amazons, the ferocious, horse-riding women warriors of Scythia. You may picture them from Greek vases, fierce figures, often depicted in combat against heroes like Heracles. Yet, this is another legend that archaeology has begun to embrace as grounded in surprising fact. Imagine the cold, vast expanse of the Pontic steppe now, the endless grasslands stretching from the Black Sea deep into Central Asia. The air here is sharp and thin, carrying the scent of dry earth and hardy, resilient grasses. It is a land of movement, of nomadic tribes, and the constant, rhythmic pounding of horses' hooves. This is the domain of the Scythians, a collection of fearsome Iranian peoples who dominated this region for nearly 1,000 years, from the 8th century BCE onward. The Greeks, who encountered these people through trade and occasional conflict along the Black Sea coast, were awestruck and deeply unnerved by the Scythians' way of life. They were master archers and riders, practically living on their small, strong horses. And what truly startled the Greeks was the role of the women in this society. The traditional Greek world was strictly segregated. Women were confined to the gyneceum, their lives centered on the home and weaving. The idea of women riding out to battle alongside men, hunting the steppes wild creatures, and being buried with weapons and horses was not just foreign. It was a profound violation of their social order. They had to invent a category for these people. They called them Amazons, meaning, according to one dubious translation, without breast, a fictional attempt to rationalize their warrior lifestyle. But the simple truth, revealed not by texts, but by the cold, hard evidence of the grave, is far more elegant. Over the last few decades, archaeologists have uncovered hundreds of Sarmatian burials, a closely related Scythian group, across the steppes of Ukraine and southern Russia. And a significant percentage of these tombs contain a surprise. Roughly 20 to 30% of the warrior graves, those containing swords, daggers, iron armor scales, and hundreds of bronze arrowheads, belong not to men, but to women. Imagine digging patiently in the dry earth, removing the layers of millennia, and finally revealing a skeleton. Beside it lies a quiver full of arrows tipped with bronze, a short Scythian sword called an akinax, and sometimes even a grinding stone used to prepare pigments. When forensic anthropologists examine the bones, they find the broad pelvis and smaller skull of a woman, often with bow calluses on the finger bones, and the bowed leg bones characteristic of a life lived entirely on horseback. These were not just ceremonial interments. These were the graves of women who lived and died as warriors. The injuries and wear patterns on the bones tell a story of hard riding, constant archery practice, and often violent death. A young woman buried in the vicinity of Pokrovka, a girl barely in her mid-teens, was interred with a complete set of war gear. Her life was short, brutal, and dedicated to the skills of the steppe. This is the true story of the Amazons. The Greeks weren't entirely fabricating a myth. They were describing a culture shock moment, a literal meeting with women who defied every rule of their patriarchal world. The Scythian or Sarmatian woman was an equal partner in the nomadic existence, just as adept with the composite bow as her male counterpart. The myth of the one-breasted, man-hating female tribe dissolves, leaving in its place the far more compelling and historically resonant reality of a rugged, egalitarian society of mounted archers. The air here on the steppe is getting colder now, the shadows lengthening. We can almost hear the soft, persistent whistle of the wind through the tall, dry grass, carrying the scent of wood smoke and leather. This is the sound of history, the constant, quiet movement of peoples who left no great stone cities, only the enduring, whispered memory of their fierce independence. They rode without fear, their lives a relentless cycle of hunting, warfare, and seasonal movement. This culture, with its powerful women at its heart, was a stark mirror held up to the structured, settled Greek world, a world where myths were often created simply to explain an uncomfortable truth about powerful women that their own society could not accommodate. We are tracing a faint but discernible line now, the line connecting the historical catastrophe of Thera to the myth of Atlantis, and the line connecting the documented burial of Scythian female warriors to the legend of the Amazons. In both cases, The history is not a refutation of the myth, but a deepening of it, offering a visceral, human context for the enduring power of the story. The great myths of the past are rarely pure fiction. They are often memory crystallized, sharpened by time, and exaggerated by the telling. But at their heart, they contain a valuable historical compass bearing, pointing us toward a real event, a real people, or a real, world-changing moment that shook the foundations of the ancient imagination. Let your thoughts drift now, as we prepare to slow the pace and wind down this first quiet journey. The night is truly settling in now. The light has softened to a deep, tranquil amber. We have traveled far today, spanning millennia and continents, from the salty air of the collapsing Aegean to the sharp, cold wind of the vast Pontic steppe. Let the images gently recede. The sapphire blue of the Minoan sea, the towering, terrifying plume of ash, the sight of the strong, silent woman riding her small, powerful horse across the endless horizon. There's a profound comfort in realizing that even the most fantastic stories we inherit are often tethered to the solid ground of human experience. The fear of catastrophe is woven into the myth of Atlantis. The awe of independent, powerful womanhood is woven into the myth of the Amazons. These stories are not just fables. They are ancestral wisdom, warnings and celebrations passed down to us in the gentlest possible package. As you feel the quiet weight of history settling around you, allow your own body to relax. Feel the gentle support beneath you. Your breath is slow and steady now. Quiet, rhythmic counterpoint to the deep, slow rhythm of the ancient world we have just explored. There's no rush. There is nothing left to do tonight. Simply be present in this moment of peaceful, historical reflection. Let your breathing deepen. Feel the air entering your lungs slow and cool, and then leaving you warm and complete. Imagine the deep, dark sea that swallowed the city of Thera. It is calm now, utterly tranquil, a deep, silent mirror reflecting the few, distant, peaceful stars. And beneath its surface, the quiet, preserved remnants of the past wait patiently. They hold no threat, only the gentle knowledge that everything passes, even the greatest of empires. The same quiet calm washes over the wide, open steppes. The horses are tethered. The campfire is burned down to a pile of soft, glowing embers. The Scythian rider sleeps soundly, surrounded by the vast, silent security of the grassland. This is a peace born not of idleness, but of deep, earned resilience, a quiet strength that carries through the night. We are all connected to these deep histories. The fears of the Minoans, courage of the Scythians, these are the foundational energies of our human story. And now, as you prepare to cross the threshold into sleep, carry only the quietest, most soothing echoes of these grand tales. No dramatic urgency, only the gentle recognition of the world's deep, slow, enduring rhythm. The myths wait for us, patient and welcoming. We will continue our journey in the quiet morning, but for now, the exploration is over. The historian is sleepy, and so are you. Let the gentle darkness settle in. Release the day entirely. Drift toward the quiet security of deep and peaceful rest. Good night. Sleep well.